When I was in the 2nd grade, I had a teacher that was a ballerina also. And she saw that I was drawing all the time and painting all the time when I was in the 2nd grade. And she talked to my mother about getting me lessons. Well, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and there was no children's lessons in 1952. And so I got in with a bunch of adults in a class that was at the Parthenon in Nashville, and I drew figures with no heads and no arms. And then I would bring them to school every day and show them to the kids, and they wouldn't know what the hell they were. So then after that, I did all the bulletin boards in school, of course. You know, you're in high school, and the teachers say, oh, she can do it, and so they get rid of having to do the bulletin boards. I did that. Then I told my dad I wanted to go to art school, and he wouldn't let me leave Nashville. So I went to art school in Nashville. And first, I did all the regular, learn how to paint with oil paint, doing lettering, everything you learn in art school that's serious. And then I got married, and I didn't stop my artwork. When my daughter was born, I went to a class every Thursday night, and when my daughter was born, it was 5 days later I went back to the class. And all my friends and the people that were in the class said, who is keeping the baby? And I said, her father. What do you think? And at that time I was 19, and they just went crazy. Okay, and then once I got through the formal schooling, I loved doing watercolors. Loved, 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 still love watercolors. But then I started getting tired. At Art Uptown and everywhere else, we had to have plexiglass. And so I got tired of framing things and the plexiglass getting scratched. Not that the watercolors weren't beautiful. So I started doing canvas, so I didn't have to frame. I love acrylics. Acrylics are fun. You can go right back over them if you've done something wrong. In fact, I just did one a couple of weeks ago where I painted the entire thing and then I gessoed over it and started up again 30 minutes later. I love to do landscapes. I do landscapes all the time. I spent 10 years doing figures, and I'm not doing figures right now, and I've thought about getting back into it. But I do landscapes in beautiful places in Florida. That's another reason to be here. Myakka Park, you could stay there for life and never paint everything you see.
You're talking a little bit about the progression of your career already, where and when you've worked. Well, now you're involved in a lot of other organizations too, like the Petticoat Painters and showing other galleries, right? Tell us about.
Yeah, I show in other galleries, and I'm with the Petticoat Painters, which have been around for 60-something years, and the Women Contemporary Artists Group, and I've also been president of Art Uptown, WCA, Petticoat Painters, Suncoast, Florida, watercolor. What else? I can't think of what else. But we show in different galleries around town, and I was in Flag, and they showed in museums all over the state of Florida. I've done that. So I've been involved ever since I was 7. I've been in the arts.
And who collects your paintings? Because I know you sell pretty well.
Well, right now, my landscape abstracts. I call them landscape abstracts. Like the one behind me here is called Squall Line, and I did that after it raining for like a month. So I did this one. Oh, the collectors. Well, there's several over on Longboat Key. I have one from England that called and bought it overline, and he has a house up at Anna Maria. I have one in Venezuela. I have 2 in Switzerland. A lot in Atlanta, and really just different people. Not collectors that are alike. They're just all different people.
That's great.
Yeah, it's exciting to have somebody enjoy your work after you do it.
What do you think you get out of making your art?
Um, I get to release a lot of, I don't know, the minute I pick up a brush, I'm excited. I've had a brush in my hand my entire life, and I don't want to paint walls. But I do like painting very large canvases. I don't have as much fun painting small canvases. It's more, I can do a 60-inch canvas faster, more creative than I can a 10 by 10 inch. Just works me to death. And then when I'm through, I'm not happy. I'd rather paint large.
Do you feel like you draw and paint more with your arm than you do with your fingers, or is there something about working large that it just comes more naturally to you?
Probably. I don't like to labor over a painting. If I labor, it starts becoming irritating. I have an idea. Once I get that idea, even if I'm looking at a landscape, it's not necessarily going to be green. It could be orange. I have that different little quirk thing going there where I change my colors. But I don't like laboring. I like painting the thought that comes out immediately and keep going until it's done. I think you can overwork art.
Do you have any heroes in the art world?
Oh yes, Wolf Kahn for one. I took from him a summer class up in Maine. Oh, he is wonderful, yes. And I love Janet Fish. Don't paint like Janet Fish. Used to with watercolors. Who else? Is it Rubidoux or Rubidoux? Love his work. His work's very free-flowing. I love Peter's shirts. I love Peter's signs.
We'll cut this out.
No, don't cut it out. It's true. I'm not making that up. It's true. I've had a lot of people over the years. Andrew Wyeth, of course. I almost met him in Maine. He left 5 minutes before I got there in a hotel with crooked floors. I've painted in Maine for 27 years. That is a real huge turn on to paint in Maine, to sit out there in that cool, crisp air and see all those old houses and the beautiful water. I went to an island called Little Cranberry Island. It's in Alsford, Maine. I've traveled painting. This painting is about the Okefenokee Swamp in Georgia in Stephen Foster State Park, where we took boats out every day to paint. The last day we were there, we saw at least 400 alligators. One was perched on a log, and I asked everybody if they wanted to stop and paint the alligator on the log, and they said yes. And so the alligator decided to jump off the log, go under the boat, and splash its tail up on the other side. Meanwhile, I'm the one with the tiller, and the girl sitting beside me stood up and grabbed my hair and screamed, and everybody on the boat stood up. And I'm screaming, sit down, sit down, sit down. And that's the story behind that painting. I have friends I paint with in the South, up in the mountains, up in Chattanooga and Nashville. I've painted in New Mexico. Where else? I've painted lots of places, which is fun to travel and paint. I've got it down to a fine art.
You're going to have to teach me that.
Oh, I've got it down.
I find whenever I travel, I'm always like, taking lots of photographs and make little tiny sketches in my sketchbook that most of the time I ignore when I get back.
That's anyway. Right. It's exactly right. In fact, you're supposed to sketch according to all the rules. Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily do that. I pick up the brush and get started.
Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about your sketches because you're going to do something different anyway. Yeah.
That's true. What inspires your art? I know you talked a little bit about landscapes, but are there any special inspirations?
I love painting water. Of course, that's in the landscapes. I don't know, because I've painted figures, I've painted water, I've used every medium there is. What inspires me? A big canvas. That's what inspires me. Then I start, while everybody's painting on their little tiny canvases in plein air, I lug a 60 by 40 out to the park and lean it on a tree. I really do.
So
and they look at me like I have lost my mind.
No, I love that.
I do. I was with Susan Klein, and she's brought her normal size. And I said, wait a minute, I've got the stuff in the truck. So I go back and I lug a huge canvas and lean it on a tree. In fact, I've shown it at Art Uptown. And it's when I painted outside in the woods.
That's great.
And water.
But is there like an emotional impact on you for doing your art? Does it lift you up? Does it put a toll on you? Does it drain your energy? Does it excite you and improve your energy?
All of the above.
Yeah, but they won't hear my voice, maybe.
Oh, maybe. It drains me sometimes to haul all this stuff outside, especially since I'm older. When I was younger, I didn't care. I could carry everybody's stuff out and plop it down. Now I'm older, and so it's like I've really cut things down to where I can bop out there and do it. But it's very exciting. I still love doing figures. I should get back into that too. I used to do that at the Celery Barn here. I painted figures. I was a watercolor artist most of the time I was painting. I took that paintbrush and I painted figures. And I'm doing the long, elegant lines with brush and paint. I used to tell a friend of mine that I had paint in my veins instead of blood.
I don't think we can end with anything better than that. That's great.